Without a shadow of a doubt, it's the Crockett Show in social media history. I want to welcome you to a special edition of the War Zone. Today, I got some good friends with me: Caroline Walter, Bridget Wade, Kendall Baker, and I am the five-star general. They've been hiding us from y'all. All four of us are running for school board in the Houston Independent School District. And today, you're going to be amazed. You can't hide the truth. So the truth will be spoken today on the War Zone. Let's get to it, man. Say, man, I want to welcome you to a special edition of the War Zone and tell you thank you for taking the time out to tune in. You know, without you guys, I wouldn't have a show. And I always want to tell you thank you because it's very important that you always tune in. Today, we wanted to do something a little bit different. You know, around the country right now, school board elections are the hottest topic in politics because a lot of people around the country are sick of the way that school boards are operating, how these people are treating our children. And I decided to call up some good candidates that I've gotten very familiar with. And we're going to sit here and we're going to have a roundtable discussion about education, about our election runs, and give you an opportunity to meet every single one of us. Now, the reason that I chose to do it in this format is because if all four of us end up on the board of trustees, then we would all have to cast votes that affect each and every one of us, each and every one of our districts. So it's important that people on my side of town get to know Bridget. It's important that people on Bridget's side of town get to know Caroline. The same thing with Kendall. It is important for us to be able to do that. This is a nonpartisan race. So therefore, let's throw the political affiliations out the window and let's just keep it real. Because at the end of the day, we have to do what's best for our children. So I'm going to quit talking. Y'all know me, and I'll go last. And I'm going to start off. Caroline, introduce yourself, my friend.
Okay. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Caroline Walter. I am running for the position of trustee in District 5. I am a mom, first and foremost. I am not a politician at all. And I decided to run for this position because I felt the responsibility as a parent and a citizen of Houston to do this for our kids and our future. I feel like our board is failing at so many levels that most people don't know. And I've been following along with HISD since my kids started in an HISD school 5 years ago. And at first, I was kind of like, oh, I saw the problems, but they weren't really affecting me. And as time went on, I realized how dysfunctional the board was. And Gary, you made a really good point that what we decide as a whole affects each individual district. I feel like the biggest problem with our current board is they can't get along. They can't compromise. They cannot form a cohesive unit to lead an entire city. It's impossible. They've been trying for years and it hasn't worked. And the only way for this to change is to get some new blood in here and a new group of individuals who actually have the best interests of these kids at heart. It's as simple as that. It's not rocket science. It is as simple as having a group of people willing to listen to each other, willing to say, hey, your idea might be better than mine. And it's gonna benefit the kids. There should be no politics involved in the school board. And that's kind of why I'm here, because I want to play my part. I want to be that person for my district, and I want to contribute to this city and this school board in a way that is just about the kids.
Okay. Well, next up is Miss Bridget Wade. Introduce yourself, my friend.
Hello, everybody. I'm Bridget Wade, and I'm just grateful for your time here today. on this wet Tuesday. Hope all is well. And I'm here as an advocate for our children first. I'm also determined that we're going to put pride back in public school. We have too much to gain and so much to lose if we don't get this right. We need to right the ship that has been sinking for so long. We have leadership that is not been accountable to, most importantly, the students, but also to the public. We also need to get the public back in public school. We've lost the community investment and involvement from parents and families. We need everybody to be involved and everyone to engage in their duty and their civic duty for our city to prosper. We have wonderful children who all have amazing gifts, and we have constantly and repeatedly undermined the potential of these children in the city. And as Gary mentioned from the beginning, we have to dig in and fight. It is time for us to stand up in the name of truth and in dignity and respect for one another. We have this amazing city. I call it like a patchwork, like a quilt. And we have all kinds of people bringing together the fibers that bring together this amazing city that we live in. If we love our students and we love this city, we will bring in brand new leadership and show you that we're here for you. We're here to serve you. And no self-interest. And like Gary said, it's time to fight.
All right.
And I'm running for District 7, just so you know where that is. It's kind of the Galleria area of town. And so that's where I serve, and I can't wait to serve you.
All right, our next guest is Dr. Kendall Baker. Introduce yourself, my friend.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Carolyn and Bridget. Thank you for having us on your show. I'm Kendall Baker, native Houstonian, one of 6 children. We all attended public school in North Forest. I also attended school in HISD. And of course, North Forest has been taken over by HISD. I'm a parent of 1 child, elementary age child, and I have a vested interest in the HISD school board. After looking at the school board over the last 8 years, I concur with all of you. All I've seen is dysfunctionality, not getting along, a lot of emotions, nothing about the children. And I heard a voice in the wilderness crying out, and that voice kept crying out. That voice said, "Will you come on, help us? We need some help." I'm not a politician. I'm a pastor. And I have my hands in many things. Like now I'm about to go into a meeting, the Houston Ministers Against Crime. We volunteered in the schools for nearly 30 years as ministers, helping the children have a safe passage to and from school and mentoring. But that voice I heard since January was none other than my little brother, the 5-star himself, saying, "Hey man, we got to do something about this." So after much prayer, meditation, I decided to put my name in the hat. The school board is in dire need of change. Even with the current passing of this recent vote for the mask mandate, it was an 8-0 election, all in favor of the mask. And now if you have a whole board that's voting in favor of a thing and the public is upset about the thing, something is wrong. That means they're representing themselves and entities and not the public. I'm here to fight for parents. I'm here to fight for the children. I have a heart of passion for people. And my district is District 6. And my district starts at Briar Forest and Beltway 8, and it goes all the way down to West Belford and Beltway 8. I want to make a change. I want to do what I can to decrease taxes, to improve the pay for children, to be transparent, to communicate with the public better. The public needs to be involved, and parents need to be more active in the school district. And I want to make a way for those who want to be more involved with educating of their children. I salute all of you because it's not easy running a race. It takes a lot of money out of our own pockets. That's why we need help. A lot of time. I'm semi-retired, and like I say, I do ministry. So I have the time and energy. My district has been ignored by the current leadership. And my district has been, the leadership has really failed my district. And so I want to stand up and make a difference for Houstonians, for all Houstonians, and for all 200,000 children of the Houston Independent School District. I look forward to serving on the board in November, should you elect me. Thank you, 5-Star.
Good for you, Kendall.
Thank you.
I kind of want to piggyback off of something you said about, you know, the last board meeting and the mask mandate, how they came in and voted all in favor. What really concerned me about that was that before the meeting, they had all made it clear on social media how they were planning to vote. Every single one of them had made a bold statement that they were voting in favor of this issue. So here we are at the board meeting, and there was a big group of parents. There was a lot of people mad. They were there. They wanted their voices heard. They were passionate. They knew what they were talking about, and their opinions were just not listened to. They weren't taken into consideration because like most of them said, we know your mind's already made up. And I think that's a huge problem with the board we have now. They go into these meetings ready to vote on issues with their minds made up. So they open up the meetings for community involvement, and you know, we're allowed to speak, but they don't really listen. And I think that is a huge issue and a main issue that's going on right now.
All right, I apologize, y'all. I don't know what happened. So I got a backup. I got a portable internet spot. So
there you go.
Let me just say this before you jump in, man. For y'all that's brand new, I've been getting new friends for the last 2 weeks. My name's Gary Monroe. I've been an education advocate almost 10 years. Started off just like Caroline. I was a parent, and I didn't like what I saw. And I jumped in it. And when I jumped in it, I jumped in head first. I didn't know what to do. I just asked God, just guide me. Just tell me what I need to do, because I really didn't know how to do it. And I agree with Caroline. One of the reasons that I decided to run is they don't listen to us. They refuse to listen to us. And the thing about it with me is I'm a Christian. I live by certain values. I do things decent and in order. The Houston Independent School District has not been decent for about the last 20 years. They've been out of order for about the last 30 years. So therefore, if it's not decent in order, it ain't godly. So honestly, when I go to a school board meeting, y'all, and I get out the car, I'm pumped up, and I'm telling you exactly what happens to me. When I touch that door to go in that building, it's like an evil spirit is inside of that building. And that's when my mode changes and I put the mask on and I'm not smiling anymore, because I know there's a lot of evilness inside of that building and they're not working in the best interest of kids. Let me ask you good people a question. Honestly, you could be doing anything else. Why run for one of the only positions in the city in government, one that doesn't pay us a dime? Why run for the school board, Caroline?
Because there's more at stake than ever before. I would pay them to let me have a say in my children's education right now. Because right now, we parents don't have a say. And that is the scariest thing in the world to me. So I'm a parent who is going to always act in the best interest of not only my kids, but the 200,000 other kids out there. Because at the end of the day, these kids are our future, and it's going to affect all of us. You may have kids in a private school, you may have kids, you may not even have kids at all, but this is the future of our city, the future of our country, and it's going down a bad path. And this is our one opportunity to change the course of what's going to come of our future. And that's why I'm doing this. I've never felt I had more at stake than I do right now.
Can you hear us?
Oh, yes.
Can't hear you. 5-star.
Said, Ms. Bridget, why run for school board?
Well, Gary and all your viewers out there, I am like everyone in here, so concerned, so deeply concerned. As a lifelong generation Houstonian, raised in the public schools, raised our children, they're grown and gone. But I just felt passionate that we have to do something. It is time for us to stand up and rally the troops. We have a mission in front of us, and it is a mission for good. We have these amazing children in this city and this amazing community that has zero support. We need to be able to provide actionable and responsible methods and that support you, the citizen, and mostly for outcomes for our children. We need measurable metrics that show what's happening, how it's being taken care of, and what good it's going to do for you. We also need to know what is going on behind closed doors. There are so many things that are working against us and for the personal benefit of a few. And that is just not how we do in Houston. It is not how we do as a nation. It is time for us to get involved, and therefore I am stepping up like all of us, trying to get new blood in there, and let's clean house. Time to clean house.
Okay, Kendall, why run for school board, my friend?
Well, it's not about the money. I make my own money. I've always had a heart for community service. I served for the city of Houston 30 years. I dealt with 2 million people per year. My calling is community service. My calling is public service. I saw there was a need. The parents were crying out. I noticed the dysfunctionality of the school board over the last 8 years in particular. Run like a bunch of kids. I heard you back in January when you were doing a lot of talking around the city, having little small meetings. I saw where my district was in need of our help, no leadership. I started digging into it more and more and saw where she was corrupted and involved in a lot of things. Even responsible, the main responsible person for the reason that the TEA is investigating the district because of holding an illegal meeting. And then the children. I have a 5-year-old daughter. Listen, our children are our future. Hands down. I have the time, I have the energy. I said, well, why not? I went straight to my savings account and put my own money into the race. I'm not in it for the money, I'm in it for the people. The parents, since I've been in there, have been saying, woo-wee, go ahead, go, go, go. They want a voice at the table. They want things to be changed. I saw you at the meeting Thursday night. They only gave you 2 minutes to speak. I said, what a shame. That's a shame in itself. The whole quorum needs to be changed, you know. And so there's a compassion for the children. There's a component. I want the parents to be involved. And the people of Houston need a voice at the table. It's time out for what HISD has been getting away with for all these years. And finally, we have some people who, with common sense, who can make common sense decisions, as myself. You don't have to be a rocket science to be on the board, that want to be involved. So just like you, Bridget, Caroline, and you 5-star. I'm just a native Houstonian, a parent that wants to be involved. Let's bring it back to the old days when a regular constituent could run and be involved and be a school board member and make a difference for our children.
Now, it's simple for me why I want to run. I believe that everything rises and falls on leadership. When your leadership is suspect, everything's going to be messed up. I've watched these people for 9 years put their frat brothers in office, put their sorors in office, put their best friends in office, their deacons, their church members, and everybody they put in office in HISD has failed. Every single one of them has failed. And the reason being that they failed is because they don't have the passion to lead our children. People say, Monroe, you're so mean and you're mad. No, I'm not. I'm passionate. I'm passionate. If you're under 25, staying alive is hard work. What does that have to do with education? Well, let me make you aware that when your educational component is messed up, your crime rate will continue to go up.
That's right.
It is mandatory at this point that we do something else. Now, you notice something. This is a very diverse panel. I believe I can sit in a room with any ethnicity and we can figure out whatever conflict that we have. Because if we're working in the best interest of children, it's not hard to come up with viable solutions. I'm running because I'm sick of the lie that equity cannot be achieved. I'm running because I'm sick of the lie that teachers make more than enough money. No, the lies have to stop being told. And lastly, I'm running because every year in December, you send me a tax statement. And at the bottom of it, it says the Houston Independent School District. So you've taken my money and now I want a return on the investment. And that's called a quality education for every single child. It's not about whether us four up here, for example, do we need to be friends? No, we don't have to be friends. We just have to make good decisions for these children. And that's all it boils down to. It's time out for the way that it's going. It's not going to work. And lastly, and I won't hold y'all up, we'll get to something else. I'm running because 4 years ago, God told me to tell you everything that would happen to your school district. And everything that I told you happened. I told you TEA was going to come in. I told you these people were stealing mass amounts of money. Everything that I told you happened. It's not going to happen in the next 4 years. Not with the 4 people I see here, plus what everybody else. It shouldn't happen again. It shouldn't happen again if we're playing the game for the kids and not playing it for our special interest groups. Okay, so here's the question for y'all. Okay, Kendall, go ahead.
I'm getting ready to leave. I have a ministers meeting in 5 minutes.
Okay.
I'm Sergeant at Arms for the Houston Ministers Against Crime.
Okay, so okay, when you did good.
Let me hang out for
go
one
ahead.
more
Give
question.
us some final words.
Well, let me hang out for your first question, and I'll do that.
Okay. The dysfunctionality on the board was at an all-time high. It was at an all-time high. What attribute do you think you could bring to the board so it wouldn't be dysfunctional for the next 4 years? Kendall, you go because you got to go real fast.
Sure. I'm used to working with large management teams. I bring back my experience with the city of Houston. We work with city council. I'm used to being a negotiator. You got to find common grounds. You emotions out of business. You keep your personal vendettas out of business. When you keep the focus at hand, which is the parents, the taxpayers, and the children, then you should find a common ground and get to a solution. As a pastor, I know how to be peaceful. As a Christian, as you are too, and as all of you are, I know how to be peaceful. Common grounds, agreeing to disagree. What we've seen in the last 8 years has been a mess. Often, it looked to me like a lot of children just arguing in a fight or something of that nature. But I plan to bring new blood, fresh perspective, and then transparency to the public. And as I get ready to close here, you mentioned some things, and we have a lot in common. So I concur, and I can feel already by me being a people person that I'm going to concur with Caroline is saying. And I don't know you that well. With Bridget, I don't know you that well. 5-star, I'm getting to know you, but as a people person and working with so many citizens for so long, again, 2 million a year, I can feel where you're going because I know we're going to concur. My plans are to decrease taxes, to empower parents and students, to bring more transparency to the board, better pay for the teachers, and then to expand the career in technology.
He must be in a bad spot.
Education co-op they got. Can you hear me now?
Yes. You're breaking up, but Ms. Caroline Walter, what attribute could you bring to the board?
I think it's as simple as the fact that I am truly deep down inside an open-minded person and more than willing to check my ego at the door. Mm-hmm. I am not above, Gary, me and you could have different opinions on a topic. I would never talk to you with such disrespect as I've seen the board members talk to each other. I would never, I just think it's the way you go about it sometimes that makes the difference. People are bound to disagree. You're on a board of 9 individuals that all have different opinions. You're bound to disagree. It's the way you handle that makes a difference. I'm not afraid to say, hey, your idea is better than mine. Let's go with that. Or let's take that and on Bridget's idea, and then we could have this, we can come to the best solution possible for these kids. Unless you have a personal motive behind this, then you should be able to do that. It's our job to do that. And I think that's it. I think it comes down to, it's nothing crazy. I'm open-minded and I'm willing to listen and compromise. End of story.
Ms. Bridget, what attributes did you bring?
Well, I'm a big fan of a mission statement. And I think if you can lead, if you could put down all your ideas, come together on a simple mission statement, one that prospers all parties invested in this board, and you look to that as your center of everything you do. You come back to that at everything you do. So you start fresh with a great statement about what you want to see happen. And you don't divert from that. You stay true to the mission. And that's the way a proper board would run, is that we would have a mission statement set that we all agreed upon, shook hands on, and walked away and knew that every time we came back together, that was how we started every meeting and how we ended every meeting. That would bring together the board in a way that is not happening now. We need to all agree from the beginning what our mission is, how to achieve it, and work towards that goal. Simple as that.
I think the attribute that I bring to any situation, let alone the board, is I don't know how to fail. I refuse to fail. I'm being honest with y'all.
That's great.
I'm a member of the new HISD Hall of Honor with my 85 state champions in football. And I don't know how to fail. That's the way that we were trained. And if I fail as a board member, then these kids fail. We need somebody that can push the D's and the R's to the side for a second. Mm-hmm. We need somebody, and this is how I felt when I was dealing with a lot of issues where I couldn't get the politicians to listen to me. So I said, well, you know what? I got gas money. Let me take a ride up to Austin, and they in legislative session. So since you won't listen to me, I'm gonna see if I can get some laws changed. That's what I'm gonna do. Now, while I was there, I met good people on the D's and the R sides. I have great relationships with everybody, Black, white, Asian, Republican, Democrats.
Mhm.
We need somebody that can step into the room and change the weather forecast. I'm no nonsense. I don't believe in failing. And I believe that just sitting in that room and Caroline and Bridget and whoever else is in that room with me, failure is not an option. So whatever the issue may be, we're going to have to solve this issue. If it's the issue of buses, where kids are not getting to school on time, where kids are getting home late, I'm going to tell you, well, it makes sense to me. You can't move middle school and high school kids at the same times on the same buses. It doesn't work. So how do we fix this? I'm a collaborator. And what I mean by that is I'm not the smartest person in any room that I sit in. I'm not the smartest person in any room that I sit in. That's what made me a good teammate. I wasn't a captain. I played my position and I played it well, but I also mastered all the other positions. So I knew what they needed to do on every single play. So I would know what Caroline needs to do every single time we're in there. I would know what Bridget needs to do, and I would expect for them to know what I would need to do. So collaboration, being able to communicate with the policymakers in the state of Texas is something I could bring to that room to where we could really get some things done. Now, you know, y'all good people, so we gonna jump into this hot seat. One of the biggest issues in the country is CRT. It's CRT, critical race theory. Where do you stand on critical race theory as it pertains to the Houston Independent School District? Caroline?
I think it has no place in the Houston Independent School District. Critical race theory, let me clarify, is not history. Children should learn history. I'm not against teaching history. Critical race theory is not history and should not be allowed to be disguised as history. Critical race theory is a divisive technique of creating segregation that our country has overcome 60 years ago. To teach kids that are born today that they are at a disadvantage because of the way they were born, or that they are superior because of the way they were born, or that they should apologize because they are superior because of the way they were born, is absolutely going to be catastrophic to our future. It's going to create a generation of kids that turn out to be racist, angry, and divided. And I don't think that this should be anywhere in our K through 12 schools.
Bridget Wade, where do you stand on critical race theory as it pertains?
CRT is just the devil's work. And in my opinion, I am a victim nor an oppressor. I have agency. We have been given agency to move as individuals and as all people. We are all created in the image of a God. We all have ability to do as we want, but we are tethered by the fact that we are united in this country. We are united as people, and Lord, and we also believe in forgiveness and repentance, and we believe that history is history. It should be taught, but we should look at what's happened, how we've prospered, what we've learned, the hardships we've endured through it. And this makes us stronger. This makes us more adaptable and makes us show more grace. I thank you for asking the question.
It's going to be issues that we have to actually look at. Now, here's the thing. CRT, Gary Monroe. I believe that you cannot take a donkey to the Kentucky Derby. I believe that you have to breed that horse to be a racehorse. And I believe that before you can teach racism and division in a classroom, that I would be a trustee over a school district that monitors it? Why don't you try teaching basic history first? I don't support CRT. I don't support division. I don't support racism. But every time there's an issue, and I need my African American fan base to just stand with me for a second. You don't have to agree with me. But every time the buzzwords come out, every time there's a Black issue, we automatically have to jump on it. No, do your research. So if you want to use CRT to make everybody think that white people are the devil for things that happened in the past, I believe that when the boat showed up on the shore of Africa and they went out there to catch them slaves, it was some Black folk that helped them. So if you're going to tell history, then tell it the way it needs to be told. And I'm more concerned with the presence right now, than I am about CRT. CRT has, I looked at some of the books that they're putting in kindergarten classrooms, and this is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You're breeding these kids to be racist. You're breeding these kids to hate each other. The most polarizing video I've seen on Facebook in a while was a little Black boy riding around in a little motorized car with his little white girlfriend. He opened the door for her, he let her sit in the car, and they just rode around the yard. That's the way it's supposed to be. That's the way it's supposed to be. And those that create division is done for a reason and a purpose. How would we support CRT and division in the most diverse city in the country, they say? It makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. So that's where I stand on CRT. I don't support it, and I'm not going to support it. And that's what it is. So let's go back into the hot seat, because people want to know. People want to know. The biggest thing in the state of Texas, I think, in schools is the mask mandate. It is people wanting to mandate masks for children to wear to school. Caroline, where do you stand on it?
There is not enough time in this broadcast, Gary. I am anti-mask mandate. I am not anti-mask. I want to clarify that. If you want to wear your mask, you wear your mask. That is your right. I think the problem I have with this is that, number one, as a school board trustee, and this is actually one of my biggest questions that I've spent a year asking each board member. I've never gotten a response yet. I've sent hundreds of emails and letters, haven't gotten a response. I want to know who they think they are and what gives them the power to make medical decisions, because a mask to prevent an airborne illness is considered a medical device. What gives them the power to make medical decisions for my kids and your kids and everybody's kids? Nothing. They don't have that right, and they are using their power, an overreach of their power, to take that right away from us, the parents. And as a trustee, I wouldn't take that away from anybody. I don't want it taken away from me. I don't want to take it away from somebody else. Because right now it's masks. A year from now, it could be something else. We could be voting to ban masks in school forever. So to all the, I'm sure I'm going to get, this is not the popular answer, but to the people that really are in favor of this mask mandate, I want to say this. Think about a year from now, if we're asked as board members to vote on banning masks in school forever, but the only way you feel comfortable sending your kids to school is in a mask. I wouldn't vote in favor of that either, because that is your right. So as trustees, whether we agree or disagree with the specific opinion of a parent, it's not our right to make that choice. It's their right. So we need to work for all parents, not just some, not just the ones we agree with. And we can't set the precedent right now where a school board is making medical decisions for children. It's a very slippery slope, and I'm strongly against it.
Bridget, mask mandates.
I agree with Caroline. I am all about parents need to decide what is best for their children. We live in an environment where, as I can say, the mask is just one more thing that's dividing from the public school. We've got fences, and we've got IDs, and we've got people at the front door, and they're telling us not to come into the schools, and they're keeping the community, the activities that the community wants to bring into the school. They're keeping everybody away. And the mask is just one more deterrent from you talking to your teachers, from you being invested in your school, and from your kids' education. I am strongly against it. There is no evidence that the masks are doing anything. We don't know that. There's no hard evidence. And in my opinion, they're choosing the way individual rights for our families is unconstitutional.
Here's my thing about the mask mandate. Each trustee has to take an oath of office. And inside of that, you agree to follow the Constitution of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of what we feel about the United States, some of you feel certain ways. The Constitution is what governs us. It's what governs us. For me, I don't believe that you force anything on anybody. I am not for a mask mandate. And I want you to understand, I have underlying health issues. And I travel. And a lot of days when I get on a plane, I can't wear that mask because it restricts my breathing. And I'm not going to wear that mask. How many times y'all out there told me, you see me all over the country, man, put your mask on. Man, I'm not putting no mask on. And then I get confused because I really want to talk to you Christians. When you gonna stop lying about being a Christian?
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that, God is my vaccine. God is my mask. I was born to die. When it's my time to go, I'm gonna go. There's nothing we can do about that. But I think, see, this is where you have to have these collaborating minds. I think Caroline and Bridget would have been more inclined to listen to you about a mask if you didn't try to force it on them.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't try to force this on these people, you may have gotten more buy-in. Whether you like Greg Abbott or not, he's the governor of the state of Texas. And when he says something, it's what it is. It's law. When Biden writes an executive order, what you do? You adhere to it. So when Greg Abbott, the governor of the state of Texas, sends a law down, oh, we just need to defy that. And lastly, when it comes to the mask mandates, you know, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I dig deep. I look for other things. I get outside of my box.
Mm-hmm.
So who supplies all these masks in the schools? Which vendor, which company is making all this money off these masks in the schools? Which trustees are going to vote for these masks? Which one of y'all going to get a kickback on the deal with the masks?
Not me.
No, don't put a mask on. You can't put a mask on my child. I homeschool him before I let you do that to him. I don't want my child to be uncomfortable at all. And if you're so worried about kids that are not masked, oh, they're going to get sick. Well, if you got your mask on, what about it? If you got your mask on and they don't have theirs on, don't worry about them. But it's our right as a parent to tell you, and excuse my French, to hell with your mask.
I have one more thing.
Yes, ma'am.
So I know a lot of people maybe listening don't have young kids in the school right now, and I want to kind of share an experience that I've had with my kids who are, you know, my son is, I have a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old and an 11-year-old that are terrified to go to school. So public safety aside, whatever the argument with the mask, whether they work or not, these kids are going to school each day. And they're terrified. They're terrified of getting in trouble if their mask is below their nose. My 6-year-old told me one of his teachers bribed him with a game if he pulled his mask up above his nose. There's kids policing other kids about, oh, you're not safe, you don't have a mask on, I can't stand by you. It's creating a horrible, divisive environment in these schools. And these kids are, unfortunately, they're almost used to it. They're almost numb to it, which is so sad to me because this is not a childhood. We need all these kids to experience a childhood, and this is not it. And they can't be pawns in this political game anymore. So,
okay. Well, we got a question from one of our audience members on another stream that I'm on. Dr. Sharon Berry. Her question is, would you as the next leaders advocate all children being vaccinated, even for the greater good? Bridget?
Oh, back to that. I think that's a parental doctor, parent, doctor, patient exchange that should be left to the medical professionals and their private relationships with their patients.
Caroline?
I agree. It is not the place of a school board to make that choice. I am not anti-vaccine. My kids have had all their vaccines. I've had my vaccines. I feel like this COVID vaccine is taking on a life of its own. And I think that if you want it, get it. If you don't, then don't. And that's no one's business but your own. And this in particular pertains to the kids. This is a parental decision, and that's it. End of story.
As far as me, no, I would not. I'm not going to force a vaccine on somebody. I would not force something on a child that I've not taken. I've not taken it. And I have my reasons as to why I've not taken it. I'm not taking experimental drugs that have not been approved by the FDA. Y'all did it. That's y'all business. But as far as children, I know what's best for my child. So therefore, I am not going to allow anybody to force a vaccine on my child. That wouldn't happen with me. And I'm sorry, but I would not even vote on it. It's beyond the scope of our job duties anyway. Absolutely. To involve ourselves in that. We're not medical experts. We would be school board trustees. And we got to stay in our lanes. We only have 3 job functions. That's it. And nowhere in those 3 job functions does it say that you need to someday make vaccines mandatory. No, I think that's a parental issue. That is a medical issue with your primary healthcare physician, and you deal with that on your own. I wouldn't force it on them. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I was also going to add that, do you get your flu shot every year?
No.
Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Does anyone ask you besides your medical professional? No. Maybe a form when you go to a doctor. Other than that, it's strictly between you and your privacy and your doctor.
Well, here's the thing. This is my vaccine. I'm addicted to this vaccine. When the United States of America, and especially down in Houston with the best medical professionals in the world, can find a cure for this disease that I have. If you can find a cure for cancer, I'll take your vaccine. But until you do, this is a choice that I make. I don't have to do this. Yes, ma'am.
There's a bigger problem than whether to mandate the vaccine or not. The problem is that parents of school-age children and citizens of our community need to accept that other people make different choices than them. And that doesn't make somebody else bad. That doesn't make their kid bad. It doesn't, you can't transfer your opinions and your beliefs on another person and expect them to listen to you. We have to respect each other's opinions. Otherwise, we're never going to survive. We're going to be fighting about this forever.
Well, I think that it shouldn't even be on the board agenda.
Absolutely. You're right. It's not our job. We're not doctors.
That's right.
Now we have a question from Becky Valadez Franco. How does Ms. Walters and Ms. Wade feel about special education in HISD? Bridget?
I'd love to answer that question. So special education is so difficult for parents. It makes me so sad. So my opinion is we should offer vouchers for all families who have special education children. You should be able to choose what's best for your child and your family and your circumstances. It may be, it's different for everybody. Not only that, if you want to go to your public school, there are laws that protect you in that public school to make sure you're getting what you need. But if you're not, you should have the option to take that tax money and do what's best for your family. I feel strongly that the dollars being used in special education dollars are being spread thin throughout the rest, all the on level learning children across which is your largest population. And I feel like the dollars are not being used in the best interest of the special education kids or the on level kids, because inevitably the on level kids are not being taken care of, and so therefore nobody is. Therefore, the kids in the special education are suffering too, because they're taking that extra money and they're padding their entire budget each school. So, vouchers.
Caroline?
I agree with what Bridget says about the vouchers to be able to take your school choice wherever you need to for your special education needs. I'm not going to lie, I am not an expert in this field, and my opinion is based on the complaints and the feedback from parents that I've been listening to over the course of the years, that the special education in HISD is failing their kids. And I think it needs to be addressed. I think when I'm elected as trustee, it's one of the things I want to collectively focus on, because these kids matter just as much as every other student, and it needs to be fixed if there's a problem.
That's right.
Special education to me has been a money pit for HISD. I don't expect for HISD to operate at its highest level, taking care of special ed children, when the state of Texas will not do it. You see what I'm saying? When the state of Texas is not doing what they need to do for our spec ed population, you can't expect for the school districts to do what they need to do. The bottom line is special ed requires special people. They have to have a special trait to even want to work with those babies. And the thing about it is, we have to do a better job of monitoring our money in HISD, so that when we set the budget on a yearly basis, that we're giving enough funding to the special ed department. Now, to follow that up, not only once we give the funding, I think we need to monitor and make sure that they're doing what they need to do with the funding, because there's not enough special ed interventionists in HISD. I know that for a fact. I've represented too many special ed parents. And I think if we do that much, we can start getting the ball rolling. But in order to do that, we got to collaborate with community. We got to collaborate with parents who know their children and know their children needs better than any board member would ever know. They know. I mean, that's just the bottom line. And I agree with you from earlier that we don't get enough time to speak in board meetings. And I want to apologize to both of y'all. I call it the Monroe Rules, because ever since I showed up 9 years ago, they've adjusted the time that we could speak about 5 different times. And but the thing is we have to do a better job. And I had to bow down after I did my research. School choice is what it is. I mean, if you're not satisfied with the education that your child is getting, you should be able to take them somewhere else so that they can be properly educated. Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry, but that's what it is. So here's my question. We have a big problem with funding in the Houston Independent School District. How do we create or give ourselves more flexibility to create more money for teacher raises, for everybody that works in the district. How do we do that? How could we could find more money to give our teachers more money? Either one of y'all could go first.
Well, I think we need to prioritize. I think that the budget needs a line by line review and revision, because I think there's a lot of money going to a lot of unnecessary positions and areas. I would love to know why our contracted services take up 15% of our budget for HISD. Other districts similar to HISD, like Dallas, Spring Branch, they are allocating about 5 to 7% towards contracted services. Why is ours almost double that? Where is it going and why? I think that there are a lot of administrative positions that need to be either eliminated or just cut down on, because at the end of the day, the teachers are the building blocks for the schools being successful. There is nothing more important. So they are priority number one. They are priority over pretty much everything else in the budget, in my opinion. And if we don't get good teachers that are compensated, the kids, everything else is almost futile. So I really think that anything is, at risk for being cut or out, like just cut out of the budget.
Okay. Well, I'll go next, and that'll give Bridget some time. I believe, and I've said it before, I believe a first-year teacher should make no less than $65,000 a year.
I agree with that.
We are the biggest school district in the Texas, the 7th largest in the country. So my question, and the most funded in the state of Texas, why is it that they don't make that kind of money? Well, look, I want to say that, one, we could get rid of the SSO position, the school support officer position. That would free up money. 2, this is something I saw for 2 years of battling HISD in court, and I don't think people even think about it. I never saw their general counsel or assistant general counsel open their mouth in a court of law in a case that I had. So what I mean by that, HISD has 45 of the top law firms on retainers. So maybe we need to get rid of in-house counsel. That would save us almost $500,000 a year. Okay, if you say, well, no, decrease the number of law firms that you have on retainer and make these people who deal with law in the building do their jobs. It makes no sense. Another way we could save tons of money. Every disagreement that Houston ISD gets into looks like it ends up in a court of law. We need to decrease the number of lawsuits that we have ongoing in our school district on a daily basis. We also, and then I'll turn it over to Bridget, we need to also stop wrongfully suspending teachers, then sending them to an alternate site for 14 or 15 months, paying them their salaries while they're working in the book barn, and then having to pay a substitute to sit in their classrooms. Solve the issue, get it over with. So that way we can save money. You're paying 2 positions instead of paying for 1. So we have to prioritize our money. And I think that teachers deserve the money, at least $65,000 a year first year. And that would tell you that teachers of tenure would make more money. You see what I'm saying, Bridget? The thing is, if we don't do it that way, then you're not going to get the best teachers. You're not going to have the brightest teachers in the classroom. And don't be mad when your test scores reflect that you got what you paid for.
It used to be that teachers were an institution. Teaching was an institution. And now no longer. Teaching has become just this lowly job, and it's not. It's so critical. It's so important. It used to be held in such a standard. And we should pay to that standard. We're taking their best and brightest and telling them they need to be everything but teachers. And that's just wrong. If we were paying teachers better, we would have the best and the brightest coming into teaching, giving generations of kids opportunity. We're not even encouraging our own kids to be teachers. We talk to them about being STEM and all these other things that going, and theirs are important, but we forget about how important good teaching is. We also, as far as the budgets are concerned, so for example, we're slow paying. I believe this 100%. For example, our landscaping fees, you can pretty much account for $10,000 plus a school a month in charging fees. Well, do you see your yards getting cut? Do you see your schools looking in, are they in good shape? They are not. Where's that money going? Are they slow paying? What are they doing with our tax dollars? That money could be used in firms that would get the job done, the job well done, effectively, efficiently. But there's something going on. I, like Gary, believe that there are a million ways we can cut spending and find money to encourage our incredible teachers. I also believe that our teachers should be paid according to their outcomes of the students in their classrooms, not necessarily on their degrees, their level of degree. They need to be paid for student outcomes out of their classrooms, encouraged and paid accordingly. That is what's going to move the ball.
Oh, I love it. I love it. A question from Ashley Borden Solano. How will you stand up to the teachers union, especially Zep Capo, who is a big bully?
I'll start with the teachers unions. So the teachers unions have absolutely no interest in our students. That is for sure. Definitely not society. And we definitely know, really not even the teachers. They're out for their own special interest, for their own power and authority, and their legislative role in dictating what happens in this nation. We are tired, sick and tired of the teachers unions. What used to be and started out as a good thing, we have these protections in place for employees. The teachers unions are old. Time to go. It's time to go. We've got to look out for our own. We've got to look out for our wonderful teachers and give them support without having these teachers unions involved. They have been nothing but a problem in our country.
Same question, Caroline.
I think the teachers unions have been the most politically divisive force in our schools, and it should be the opposite. And we can't be bullied if we don't let them bully us. And we need to take control of our own schools. And like Bridget said, we need to stand up for our teachers, and we need to stand up to them. Because we have the power and we can do it. And we just have to stand up for ourselves. I think going on right now, I think there is a lot of underhanded things going on. And I think that's why the teachers unions have gained so much power.
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to ask a question and then I'm going to answer the question about the teachers union. And it's just a simple yes or no questions for you good ladies. Did you get invited to the teachers union's endorsement process to endorse candidates for the races?
I don't believe so.
Let me tell you why you didn't get invited. Because they already know they can't buy you. They already know that they can't influence you with money. So I know y'all didn't get in. Y'all saying y'all didn't get invited. I know they would have invited the devil himself before they invited me. But Mr. Capo, I will say this to him. I still have the text in my phone from 4 years ago where you texted me and told me at the time that I had the best screening in the history of the AFL-CIO, and it must have not been that good because you endorsed my opponent 4 years ago. The way that you control these teachers unions is just like I said from the beginning. Let's go and put a plan together to give our teachers more money. Let's give them more money. Let's give our support staffs more money. Let's give our teacher, paraprofessionals more money. Let's give our kitchen workers more money.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so now you can't come in here trying to bully us as a school board to use your political influence, which I think is zero, because this is not a Dem or Republican type of race, but this teacher union leans more to the left to me. And you have created division between the political parties, so you can't even go advocate during legislative season to accomplish any goal because you want to be the bully in the room. The way you take the bully out the room is we do what the people voted us in to do, which is our job. If we give them more money, we don't have to deal with this union. We don't have to deal with you to a certain capacity, because eventually we will have to sit down and hammer out some things. But the thing where you play the game where you got consultation for 12 months and you can't seem to solve teacher raises in 12 months, then you wait till the budget is set, and then you want to come back and say, well, no, we need to give teacher raises. That's like building a house and laying all your water lines. You finish the foundation and then figure out, I don't want this shower in this room. So what we need to do now? Well, let's just plug up that hole. No, you can't do that because you're going to mess up the water pressure. So when you come back and want to give raises after the budget is set, you screw up the whole budget. So it's really not the school district that creates this RFP process, especially the last 3 years. And what I mean by RFP is reduction in force, where they have to fire teachers. It's the inability of the union to properly engage the school board for 12 months to create the scenarios that would benefit the teachers. So they set you up as a teacher to get fired. Tell him he can come on the program, we can debate the point. But I know that's exactly what it is. Now, there's a word that's been chunked around for the last 15, 20 years. Equity. Equity. How do you create equity in HISD, the school system? Caroline?
Oh, Gary, this has become it's almost like a trend on how you answer this question. I don't even know. I think there's so many different ways to create equity. Yeah, you can throw money at the problem. You can buy an underserving school more computers. You can buy them all this other stuff that, Westview Elementary, for example, has. But this is what I want to say. Like and I've said this before, if you went into Westview Elementary, which is one of the higher performing elementary schools in the district, on any given day pre-COVID, you would see more parents in there than you saw teachers and staff. So that is what's missing from a lot of these schools, the intangibles, not the tangible items. You can put as much money as you want, but if you don't have that extra support, the parents doing extra fundraisers. Most of the equipment and accommodations we have at our school is from the PTO. It's money we raise individually. And you need to, if you're not able to have this, and I understand that there are a lot of schools that the parents aren't able to participate as much. Maybe they're single family or single parent homes, and it's just not possible. So we have to supplement that in a way. And I don't mean by money, I mean, we have to put people in there that want to help the school, help the students, raise additional funds, give them the extra support that we're getting at these schools that they don't have. I met a parent at one of the forums recently from a school. I believe she was in District 1, and we talked about this, and she told me that she wasn't allowed in her school. And this was before COVID. And then I said, well, how are you gonna have a PTO? And she said, I've been trying to get a PTO in my school for 9 years, and they won't let me make the PTO. And I was blown away, because that's the first I heard of that. And I think that's a problem. That's a problem. We need to figure out why this is happening and address that, because these schools are missing out on not money and not tangible objects. It's the extras. It's the support system. So I think that's what needs to be addressed in order to create equity.
Bridget?
So this is my big idea, but I feel like we have a duty to get our public education back in with, as Caroline said, to point back to the public. We need to let community leaders and community elected officials within our community and within our neighborhood to get invested, to get involved, and to be leaders. They purposely have excluded the public for that reason. They do not want equity in schools. They say it and talk it, but they do not want it. They want the disparity. They want to encourage disparity because it prospers the teachers unions and there's so few. That's really what's going on. I mean, that's the reality of it all, is they have abandoned you for their own interest. And no one sees it, but it's there. I promise you. If we were to break this district up into 4 districts that represented you and your community and your needs better, I think we could do a lot better in touching all families and giving them much more equitable results in what's provided. We can't guarantee anything, but we can guarantee that everyone has a voice, and that is the most important thing.
Equity. It's 2 ways that you can create equity. In my eyes, is 2 ways. One, the Houston Independent School District is too big for just 9 trustees. We need to add 3 at-large positions. People that have no skin in the game in certain districts, they just represent everything. That's going to be a game changer when it comes to equity. The second one, these low performing schools in these African American and brown communities, we know what the game was. And the game was that you take seats from our schools and you give them to other schools. Well, how did they do that? They rezoned us. You want to create equity? Let's just be honest. Let's rezone this district the way it needs to be. And what I mean by that, I'm gonna give you an example because you 2 good board members, future board members, probably didn't know that maybe 15, 20 years ago, Lamar High School was in jeopardy of closing because of low enrollment. So what they did is they rezoned it to where, if you're familiar with the area, they brought Lamar Zone all the way down Westheimer over 288 into 3rd Ward. So that way, the kids in 3rd Ward at a certain point were now zoned to Lamar. So the seats that should have been going to Yates were now zoned to Lamar. So the way that you create equity is through funding. So if we got our seats back, if we got our kids back just from that, the funding in our school alone would be more than enough money to be able to do more things. But I really think that's the way you do it. We have a question from somebody, and I'll put it up for y'all. What will you be able to do as a school board rep that your opponent isn't already doing? I love this question.
Great question. Great question. Well, let's start with transparency. let's start with that. I mean, right now we hear nothing about plans for what's forward thinking. Everything is reactionary. It's always reactionary. They didn't even know. We all knew there were going to be a lack of teachers coming into the school year. We all knew that. We knew that early in the spring when even Amazon knew they didn't have enough employees. That was all over the news. We knew every restaurant was struggling finding employees, and they didn't even plan for the lack of teachers. We start school with no teachers. They had to go to, if you know this, they had to go into HISD administration and pull anyone with a teaching certificate into our schools at the 11th hour. And that's just wrong. We also have no metrics for which we are working COVID protocols. They have not given us a landscape or goalposts or metrics for when they're going to stop some of these crazy antics they're pulling. There's no transparency about what's going on, and they are always moving when the ball is already off the quarterback's arm. They need to know the playbook, and they need to be letting the public know what the plans are ahead of time.
Caroline?
I'm going to be super basic about this answer because it's just a basic thing that I can promise that I will do. And I'm speaking, in regards to our current members and my district board member trustee. And, this past year has been hard. It's been a really trying year. A lot of parents have had a lot of really emotional feelings. And I was one of them, and I have reached out to the board, and I have spoke at every single board meeting for the past 18 months. I have probably logged 100+ emails, and I got probably 2 very vague responses back after all of that. I had my eyes rolled when I was speaking at their virtual meetings, as my thoughts were just, they didn't want to hear from the little people. And these people are forgetting that they work for me, not the other way around. Okay, so as a trustee, I will work for you. And I'm going to listen to everything that every parent has to say. If I don't have the answer for you, I'm going to find it. I'm going to get it to you. I'm not going to ignore you because you are the one electing me. And I'm not going to take that for granted. And think about it. Our positions are called trustee positions. We need to create a trust with the community. And right now, I'm a parent of HISD students, and I don't trust the board of trustees. So that's the most basic way I can do something that the current board has not done.
Okay, with me, you just said a mouthful. They don't listen. They don't listen to us. So what would I do that my opponent isn't already doing? I'd create accessibility directly to me. I would listen to my constituents. And I'm going to go a step further. Every month there's an agenda review meeting. And every month after I go to agenda review, I'm going to take the agenda and I'm going to set up a community meeting the very next day. And in the community meeting, we're going to go over the agenda item by item. And my community is going to tell me how to vote on it. And I'm going to carry their votes into the boardroom. So if they say, well, this is CRT. Well, Mr. Monroe, and it's 100 people in there say, well, we're going to vote. We want to vote yes. I got to carry that vote into the boardroom because I'm their employee, whether I like it or not. Mm-hmm. And that's the way it should be, where you listen to your people. And, the main thing for me is listening to everyone in my district, not just certain schools, not just certain people, but every school, every person, every kid is important. Taking the time out to understand their plights is what I do on a daily basis anyway. So I wouldn't change. I would not change. And the thing is giving them a voice with that vote in that boardroom is more than you could ever imagine. Now they'll feel they're being listened to. Now they may want to become more engaged. Now they may go attend a PTO meeting. You see what I'm saying? Because now they feel that their voice is being heard. They feel that their voices are being heard. Let me check something and see. We might have some more comments. So the thing is I don't think anybody else in politics, especially in Harris County, is doing what I just said. Just carry their votes into the boardroom. This is their choice. This is what they want to do. Now, we may differ on opinions, and we know CRT, we may differ on it. But if this is what you guys want, then I'm going to carry your vote into the boardroom. I'm not going to be angry when I do it. I'm going to do what you asked me to do. And I will make a promise to them just the same way you're going to hold me accountable. I will hold my only employee accountable, which is the superintendent. There has been a lot of riffraff on the board. There's been a lot of, what can I say? Foolishness, open foolishness in board meetings where people are being disrespected. Um, would you ladies, because they're at the mercy, have you ever seen where they're talking and then this lady gets up and walks over to them and whispers in their ear? That's because at that point they're probably in violation of Robert Rules of Order.
Right.
They don't even know how to conduct a board meeting. So she's got to come over and remind them. Would you verse yourself in Robert Rules of Order so that you could know exactly how a board meeting should be ran?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I've already been involved in various boards and school trustee boards and arts boards and University of Houston, and led some of those boards. And there's a reason for the order. An order is very important. It's a respectful way to address each other. If we don't start with respect, we're never going to be able to. If we can't ask it of ourselves, we can't expect it of others.
Exactly. I'm kind of versed in Robert Rules of Order. So it's a lot of things that I've seen them do where I would just ask for a point of order. Where the board meeting getting out of control, I would just ask for a point of order at that point. We got a question. It's pretty long, so I'm not going to put it up. The question is do you support HISD providing opportunities and instruction to already high-performing students working above grade level, that is competing with private schools, taking students and putting HISD into recapture? Do you support HISD providing opportunities and instruction to already high-performing students who are above grade level?
In what capacity? I don't
understand the question.
It's a kind of tricky question. For me, it is quite simple. You have a school that's performing high. You have a school that's down here performing low. Our focus at the end of the day, these guys are going to do what they need to do. You know, they already got it. They're going to do what they need to do. So we need to put a little bit more focus over here to understand why kids are not reading on grade level, why kids can't do basic mathematics. Bridget?
Well, that was my point earlier, is that we have lost focus on our largest majority of kids, which are our on-level children. We have so many kids that are so smart and so capable. They have every right to get as much out of their education as anybody else. And we just keep moving those kids along without giving them the opportunities that they so deserve as well. As an on-level student myself, I feel strongly that I can bring where my gifts lie to the table. And we have lost that focus on kids who have gifts to give across the board. And so I, like you, feel like we need to invest more in that on-level. The mid-range kid is the majority of the kids. And I think we are doing them a disservice by not encouraging them and supporting them and giving them all the tools they can use to prosper.
I tell you what, Sean Russian made a great point. She says a lot of issues today are because of decentralization. And I would have to agree with Sean, because I've actually seen principals when the budget comes in, you know, they project their budgets in February. And then the funding comes in June. And a lot of principals don't even know how to disseminate the money once it comes in. I asked the principal one day, so your highest budget item is teacher salaries. Why is your next highest item general funds? And when I say general funds, I mean toilet paper, hand sanitizer. This is before the pandemic. So you mean to tell me that you don't even know where to put your money? And in a lot of schools, especially on our side of town, the one area where they hurt the most is fine arts. They never seem to find money for the fine arts programs. That's your band, that's your art class, that's your choirs. You see what I'm saying? They don't have money for those children because they don't even know how to disseminate the money. So decentralization is a major problem because a lot of these principals don't know how to handle these schools. Come on, ladies, y'all deal with the finances in the house. I'm pretty sure. Caroline, I know Kevin, he do what he do, but you handle that. Y'all the bosses. I had a boss for a couple of years.
I don't
17.
think again, though, I don't think it's that complicated. You can make it complicated, but you literally need to make a list, like what you need most, what's most important, and just kind of that's where you put the money. I don't understand why a school would prioritize teacher raises than toilet paper. I don't know. But if that principal is not capable of doing that, then there needs to be an accountability under him. It can't be there needs to be a group, a decision-making group, budget decisions for the school that kind of come together and that are overseen by the board, because that can't happen. That's unacceptable. I don't know why that would be.
Well,
I mean, when you're at home and you have to balance the checkbook, you got to prioritize what needs to be paid.
Yeah, some things you just don't have money for.
Exactly. Bridget?
So let's go back a little bit in history, and let's talk about the feeder pattern that was broken. So I have an issue with the feeder pattern being broken. When I was in school way back when, they started to break this. The HISD started to break up the school pattern, and what I mean by that is your local elementary school fed into a neighborhood middle schools that fed into a centralized or neighborhood high school. And so you knew where you're going. Funds could be asserted that way. So if your elementary school was strong in arts and music, your middle school would have those same resources figured into their budgets, so that those kids would naturally go into another school that was using their resources in the best and most economical way. That made sense. It kept the community invested and involved. But over time, they decided, oh, this school's got, as Gary said earlier, this school has low student bodies, so let's move them all. Well, that doesn't work. Instead, say, fix what's wrong with your school, make it better, and the kids will come. Instead, they've taken the eye off the ball and they move kids around everywhere, and therefore resources are hard to understand. It's hard to budget when you don't know the student body that's coming in every single year is new. Turnover is outrageous. Teachers can't teach because the turnover rate. Kids are moving from school to school throughout the year. If we had a good, strong feeder pattern, and we had kids going from elementary into a known middle, kids see about 2 years ahead of them. That's about as far as they can see. They want to know where they're going next. Parents would be invested. Schools can invest their money wisely in programs that take with them through the feeder pattern. This, I think, was what destruction of HISD came from the very beginning. And so I would love to see zones put back into place that fostered that community experience and that feeder pattern. Money could be used wisely. Principals would know what other principals needed and had time. Budgets could be resolved late in the spring before they even get to summer for the next school year. And they would know what students are coming into their schools without constant shifting and moving around. This is a problem for families, for schools. There's no way to budget under the circumstances. So I don't know about decentralization or centralization, which one's better. I just know that the feeder pattern is essentially the problem.
Caroline?
Well, I know that in our district, District 5, there is a big concern for a lot of parents is, we're an elementary school and they need to run to a private school for middle school and high school because they don't know where they're going, what they're getting. It's kind of a disaster that has never been addressed. Like they're used to being in a community school, and then they go, they're sent off to wherever they're zoned, and they don't know who the students are, who the families are, where they're coming from, because it changes on a regular basis, and it's not good. If we want to keep our kids in HISD, which many of them want to stay within the public school system, we need to figure out a definitive path for them, because like you're both saying, there should be good neighborhood schools for elementary school, middle school, high school, for everybody. And if we're sending kids from, like Gary's saying, from District 9 over to another school, and that school's not getting the money, they don't even stand a chance to build up their school system.
No, I totally agree with you. I think we need to strengthen our feeder patterns. And the only way we're going to do with that, the only way we can do that is we have to go into these schools and we have to see where these kids are lacking. A few years ago, I met a school for a meeting. They told us just hang out in the library. We go in the library and there's not any books on the shelves. I mean, what is this? You know, I challenge people, and Bridget took me up on it, and we're going to do it. Caroline, you're welcome to hang out with us. And she said, man, I want to come right around your community. And I want her to ride around the community. You know, if we can't get into schools, we can look at them from the outside. But if you can get in, the question would be, once you see what I see, what we live with every day, would you send your child to this school? Would you send your child to this school? That's the bottom line. And a lot of people that have done that have said, no, they would not.
Let me ask you this. Why are they not letting us in? Why can't we get into the schools? Why can't the parents and the taxpayers get into that school whenever they damn well please?
Because we're not pushing the issue. I'm a taxpayer. I'm going in any school I want to go in.
That's right.
And when I go in, I can go to the office. I want to see your budget.
I mean, I'll wear a mask, I'll wear a beekeeper suit, I'll wear whatever you want, but let me in the school, and I want to see what's going on in there, because that's half the battle, knowing exactly what's going on.
Okay.
And that's why I'm convinced that's why they want to keep parents out of certain schools. They don't want anyone to know what's going on. And until we're in there and we see what's happening, the problems are going to resume. They're not going to be fixed.
Persist.
We're almost done. A couple of more questions, and really the two questions will start. How do you as a trustee feel about STAR testing in the Houston Independent School District?
Okay. Well, I'm not a fan of the STAR testing. My kids spend their entire year preparing for the STAR test, and I feel like it is stressed so much because basically it's a grade of the teacher and of the school. And it's not an accurate depiction of the kids. It's just not. And it's not fair that they spend their entire year preparing for this test in May that essentially grades their teacher in their school.
Bridget?
I agree. There needs to be accountability, and there needs to be measures, and there need to be metrics. And we all know that's important. That's how things are, and we need it. We need that accountability measure. But we could be doing like they always did before. We could do tests. They could monitor the kids twice in the fall and twice in the spring, and not big time tests. They just need to be, where are you now? Where are you now? Where are you now? And where are you now? And then we could know where the kids are failing early into the fall. The parents could know, the teachers could know, the teachers could adjust, the parents could adjust, and everyone would win. But instead, they're not. They're just holding everything to these certain exams that their intentions are good. They're not getting the outcomes that we need. They are not monitoring the kids as we go along. We just need to be doing little checkups at least twice in the fall and twice in the spring. And I think you would find where kids are falling through the cracks and where the strengths are. But we have to have some accountability measures, whether it's the STAR test or not. It just needs to be something. And we don't need to teach to the test. If the kids are really well educated in the foundation and building blocks of education, they will have no problem with these tests.
Now, the STAR test,
more well-rounded evaluation.
The
So
STAR
more
test for
well-rounded
me,
evaluation.
the STAR test, not the process of trying to evaluate the kids. The actual STAR test to me is nothing more than a $45 million a year money grab.
Yeah.
That's all it is. That's why
Absolutely.
they test them so much. You know, me going back to college a few years ago, when I decided to go back, I had to, do my TSIs and all that stuff. And they asked me, they say, well, what's your SAT score and your ACT score or your ACT score? So you mean to tell me these kids taking this test and they go to college and they don't even want the test scores from this particular test? So why are we taking it? Why we spend more time on retesting than we actually spend on educating the whole child.
I agree.
This is why kids can't read. This is why kids can't do basic mathematics, because you got them sitting in this retesting classroom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? To deal with a test that don't even really matter. And all the STAR test is used for is, like you say, teacher evaluations.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also used as a measure to determine which schools they really want to close down.
Yep.
Because they already know if you're doing this test at a low performance school, according to the test, most likely they're gonna be low performing the next year. Okay, well, we need to close that school down. So it's all a setup just to close schools down. We're gonna end this with one last question, and there's no way we could get out the building from dealing with these fantastic future trustees without asking about school safety. Safety is a big issue on the campuses. We've seen all across the country where we've had shootings on our school campuses. Kids, fighting. We just had a big thing on the first day of school at Sterling High School. Two kids jumped a Latino young man and beat him pretty badly. You as a trustee, what measures or what ideologies or ideas would you bring to the game of being a trustee to address school safety?
I'll start with, I think safety is so important for families to be able to send their kids to places where they feel like they're getting, their kids are being protected. But on the other side of that, we've allowed for a lack of respect and discipline for one another in our schools. And if our leaders in our schools cannot foster and demand some kind of discipline, then how are we going to protect these kids inside the building? It's not outsiders coming in, it's inside. And that's not the way to run a school. Our teachers are vulnerable. They can't move. Our kids need leaders. They need boundaries. And that's good. That prospers. So I believe in that we should be encouraging schools to have strong disciplinary measures. I'm not saying we need to go in and kick kids out of school, but we need to have rules and designs. And if you're breaking the rules, you need to be held accountable. And I think that would help our safety in our schools.
Caroline?
I agree. I think there needs to be a strong disciplinary plan in place, whether that's, levels of discipline for students. But I also think this also comes back to having good leaders and good teachers in the school, because if these kids are coming to school and they're doing these things like jumping other kids and doing these dramatic, violent activities, there's a reason why. And they need to have people there that are not only disciplining them, but kind of figuring out why they're doing it and trying to push them in another direction and mentor them to a degree. I don't think school, parents are parents, teachers are teachers, but I think the stronger our leaders and teachers are, the less discipline action we will need. And it will kind of create a whole pyramid of success from the bottom up.
Gary, can
I
I say
believe,
one more thing? Because
yes,
this is an
ma'am.
important topic. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Caroline. I've been reading a bunch of studies about this, and I think there's some good alternatives. There's some good creative ways to think outside the box here. And we've lost, as I've always said, we've lost civics in our schools. And if the kids were learning valuable civics within their own communities, meaning their own school building, on how to serve one another, how to learn to respect each other, how to serve the school they work in, they would foster a sense of respect and community for their people around them and the building and the staff, and it would be mutual. We have not allowed kids to invest in their schools. We have taken kids out of the process. If you were to ask your classroom, hey kids, let's start our mission statement at the beginning of the year and let's decide what is acceptable and what is not. And I'm going to get a hands down vote in this classroom of what the acceptable behavior is and what isn't. And you had buy-in on that. It's amazing what those kids would feel like they had authority and they would stand up for it and they would defend it because kids want good. They want discipline and they want to go into places to say, but let's give them some investment in this. We're just taking it all for granted that these kids are capable. We need to give kids back some authority in the classroom, be able to decide from the beginning what the rules are. And then once they're set, that's the rule.
It's simple for me. There should be zero tolerance in schools for certain things.
Agree.
Mm-hmm.
Where I saw the other day where the kid got jumped by two kids just sitting at the table. And I mean assaulted to a degree that I've not seen in a long time. Automatic exposure. We don't need this on our campus. I'm sorry. We don't need this on our campus.
Yeah.
I've had principals tell me that, Mr. Monroe, the kid almost has to commit murder to be suspended from a school. You can get caught with drugs on the campus and now you get to go to rehab. There are just certain things that we can't tolerate on a campus, and violence to a certain degree should not be tolerated at all. Automatically, you should be expelled from the school district. You shouldn't be allowed.
There has to be a higher standard.
It has to be a higher standard. And you hate to get to that point, but that's where it needs to be. Another thing that could help with school safety is to teach conflict resolution on these campuses. Now, you can't do this during the course of the day. So this should be an after-school program where you teach conflict resolution, where you get kids to clearly understand there are better ways to solve issues than it becoming violent. You teach them this because they have to go out into the real world once they graduate, and you can't fight every issue physically. I'm sorry, you can't. And that's what it needs to be. We got one last question, and I'm sorry, y'all, but it's a good question. And then we'll have closing comments. It comes from Scott Malone. In these controversial and divisive times, as an elected official, how will you handle strong criticism and personal attacks from community members? Caroline?
Well, I'm not going to take it personal because any decisions I make and any viewpoints I share are in hopes and with the goal of all the children succeeding. And I want to benefit our schools in a positive way. I'm not going to please everybody, but I at least want these critics to know that I'm listening to them and I respect their thoughts, and I hope they can see and respect that I'm just doing my best for the district as a whole.
Bridget?
Agree. I think you need to be, you need to stand for what you believe in, but you are a steward of the public. And if the public has a disagreement with you, you can be respectful back and have dialogue, open dialogue. Come to some place where you can find common ground, like we said earlier, and make it known. We are here as public servants, and that is our role. We are here to listen and activate. So don't expect to agree with everybody, and I don't expect them to agree with me. I'd like them to, of course, but no, we know that's not the case. And so that's what makes it great. That's what makes our independence great. And so I'm all in favor of, let's reach out, let's connect, and let's bring the community together. I think a lot of it is just if you respect if you respond, like Caroline said earlier, to people, to the citizens, then that you will automatically get a positive reaction.
Parents just want to be heard.
I'm built a little differently. I will never make a personal decision. I'll only make a business decision in the best interest of our children.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I don't expect everybody to agree with me. They don't know. I don't expect everybody to like me. They don't know. If you don't like me, get in line and stretch around the corner. I don't have bad days when people don't like me. But I know that I can show up every single day and make the best decisions because I'm not making the decisions. You're going to make them. You're going to tell me what I need to do. So I don't think we'll have very many disagreements because you'll have a voice in the process. And this is not something that I'm saying and then I'm not going to do. Actually, my father taught me something. He said, man, no matter how hard the job is, find the easiest way to do it. He said, if you find the easiest way to do it, you're going to finish it fast. So I'm going to put the responsibility on y'all. This is this is the agenda item. This is what we need to vote on. How do you want to do it? And then we'll go from there. But I mean, I've been a critic of school board reps all the time. So it's no way I can sit up there and just have an attitude because somebody handling me bad with the way that I've handled a few of them. You know, it's been fun to me because all I've ever told was the truth. They may not have liked the volume in which I told it. They may not have liked the delivery, but you needed to get inside of the message to understand. You ladies have been phenomenal. We'll give you 3 minutes to close out. You get to say whatever you want. Caroline Walters has the floor first.
Well, thank you, Gary, for having me. I'm glad I got this opportunity to share my thoughts with everybody listening. I don't really have 3 minutes worth, but I just want to say this. My number one priority is restoring the power to the people and to the parents. That is my number one priority. I think that is the only way our district is going to run and be successful when the parents are making the choices. I'm just the liaison between you and the school board. And end of story. I'm going to listen to everybody. I have no motives besides that I want what's best for my kids and your kids, and I will work my hardest to make sure that each and every one of them is successful.
Ms. Bridget,
and Gary, thank you so much for having us, and Caroline for joining us. And it's just been a gift. I've learned so much. And Gary, let me tell you what, I am your biggest fan. I have learned so much from you.
I second that.
I also have, I started not knowing you well, and I still can't wait to know you more. But I just love what an advocate you are for our kids and for this city and for just people alone. You are you're out there fighting hard, and I appreciate what you do. I wanted to say, I was reading something the other day and I thought it was really great, and it had a bit to do with Washington. And he said, seeing the republic he governed was its citizens seeing him. He said he was really popular, but it's because he went out to see the people. He went out into the communities. He made a stand for the people that he saw where they lived, what they did, how they interacted. And that is what we need to be doing. I love that. I love that he was sowing seeds by going out to be with the sowers. And so I love people. I'm one of 6. I'm the middle of 6. So I'm a bridge builder. It's in my name. And so I am called by my name to be a bridge. And I thank you so much for your time today. And I thank you for this opportunity. And I can't wait to serve and serve you, the public. And I just appreciate this time, Gary, very much.
I'm gonna close with this. I was laying in a hospital bed for 23 days, and I made a promise to God that I would do everything in my power to help these kids. If you watch my journey, you know I'm not lying. He never gave me a blueprint on how to do it. And I looked in the Bible and I wanted to figure out who could I relate to. And I related to Saul. If you know your Bible, you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
God gave Saul an assignment.
Mm-hmm.
And he told him if he didn't do it, he would shorten his days.
Mm-hmm.
He gave me an assignment. Now, you may not like how I do it some days. You may not like how I say it some days. Can Mr. Monroe handle himself in closed sessions? Sure, I can. When I show up in cities that don't know me, and I can stop communities I've never been to from rioting and burning down buildings, I'm pretty sure that I can sit in a closed session with these good ladies and accomplish the goal, which is to make sure these kids get a quality education.
Mm-hmm.
I need you to trust me. And sometimes your angels come in different forms. They come in different forms. We didn't show up and decide to run for school board. And we've never had this talk, what I'm about to say. God told us to do this.
Mm-hmm.
This situation is out of control. And God told us to step up and do what we needed to do. I'm pretty sure that I can work with these ladies, Kendall, and whoever else wins their election and whoever else is sitting there. But just know one thing when I walk through the door, I'm not here for you. I'm here for them. And it's time that we give them what our tax money is already paid for. If that is not what you want, then don't vote for me. I'm not playing the game because I've been to too many funerals for children that they didn't have a shot. And if all we can do is give them a shot, if they blow it, that's on them. But it's our job to give them a shot. For the ones that are going to go to college, for the ones that are not going to go to college. You see what I'm saying? We have to make sure that these kids have some building blocks that when they walk out that door of that school, they're ready to go. I'll close it with this, and I want you to understand why everybody that's in a position to help make this change, you need to understand that a kid that has a diploma, but he has a subpar education, he's a very dangerous young adult.
Mm-hmm.
It is our responsibility to make sure that these kids get the foundation. Where is our next set of leaders going to come from? Where they're going to come from if they don't have the basics? I'm tired of my girls graduating, going to stripper poles. I'm tired of my boys graduating and going to street corners. And you know what's so amazing? That used to be isolated to one demographic. But now all of our kids, our girls, in every demographic, black, white, Latino, whatever, they're graduating to stripper poles. Our boys are indulging in drugs and all kinds of stuff when they graduate. And God forbid, this is the worst part. You may think that's bad. I can't stand when a kid graduates and all of a sudden he has his career job working the cash register at Walmart. No, we can do better. But it's going to take black people working with white people. It's going to take white people working with Latinos. It's going to take us to take the race and the politics out of the room.
Yes.
And get back to the basics of education.
Yep.
And I tell you one thing that I bring to the table. You upper level politicians, and you know who I'm talking to out there. Y'all know who I'm talking to. You can put your key away because you'll never put a key in my back. And I'll never work for you. You vendors that's coming with your money, I got my own money. I don't need any money under the table to play the game. But like Becky says, it takes a village. And now the villagers have shown up. And they've shown up in different ways, man. You have Caroline, who's a mom. You have Bridget, who's a professional. You have 5-star. I'm an advocate and an activist. We've shown up. And I'm gonna get you ladies to the hood and get you on the hood slang. Since you've shown up, it's time to show out.
I'll get in that school. I'll make sure we get in that school.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Since we gonna show up, it's time to show out.
Mm-hmm.
It's time for HISD to be recognized for excellence and not for federal investigations. It's time for the school board to respect the parents in the school board meetings. It's time for us to conduct ourselves in a manner to where our elected officials on the upper levels are not looking at us like we're an embarrassment. It's time for us to go to work. November 3rd, you guys get to make the choice, and you got to remind them what districts you're in.
November 2nd.
November 2nd. November 2nd.
And early voting starts October 18th.
Exactly. So if you need yard signs or whatever and you're interested in us, let us know. I'll be glad to bring them out to you. I'll be glad to stop and talk to you. It don't matter. And I can talk the pants off a dead man. So get ready for a hell of a conversation. So it is what it is. I can't wait. And I can't wait to work with whoever. But I'd love to work with you too. I'd love to work with Kendall because I think if you put us in a room, we know what our assignment is. And I don't see us ever getting in an argument in a board meeting. I don't see that. I just don't see it. And that's the
our
way.
motives are pure. We have the right motives, and that's all that matters.
Exactly. So you ladies are welcome to come back anytime you get ready. But you guys have sat and you've watched history in the making. Caroline Walters, Bridget Wade, my good friend Kendall Baker, and y'all call me Gary Monroe, and some of them call me 5-star. But it's on November 2nd, man. And to my incumbent, get a seatbelt, baby. This is gonna be a hell of a ride. Because I ain't taking a L.
God
Until
bless.
the next
Thank you.
Thanks,
all right,
Gary.
y'all.
Thank you.